All right, it's now 7 o'clock, and I call the Master Plan Committee meeting of Wednesday, April 17th, 2024, to order. Welcome, one and all. We took attendance. We currently have 10 members. We did have one addition, Brandon Moore, who's going to be one of the 3 at large. We're still looking for 2 more. Brandon can't make it this evening. He's excused, Meg is excused, and Katie Grace is excused. So we.
How do you spell Moore's last name? M-O-O-R-E?
I think, yeah. Yep.
I thought she was going to ask how do you spell excused?
Oh,
So I took attendance. Happy to see you all. And just a couple things I wanted to talk about. In sort of the nature of the master plan and the discussions we have, you know, it lends itself to open discussion and cross discussion, and that's actually a good thing. But I think we need to be careful and that we stay on topic and that we don't have side discussions, because although it was good, I think it was fruitful. I won't say it delved into chaos, but it started to slide into chaos. So let's stay on topic, and we'll just move on to the next thing. And if a member feels like they've had enough and you want to move on, we'll move on. Just let me know.
Can I ask a question? When you say stay on topic, who's coming up with the topics?
Whatever the topic the committee decides. For instance, we're going to revisit some of the items on the board here, and if we've sort of run through an item and we've sort of run out of steam, and you think it's time to move on, or you would like to choose another item, that's fine too.
Do we have to stick to those items? There might be other ideas we have from Mexico.
No, we don't have to stick to those, Carol. Certainly not. Yeah. Let's see here. Moving on. The other thing is that, you know, it's what makes a great committee is the different personalities, right? Everybody brings something to the party. But as we know, some people are very verbal, some people are quieter, and it's really important to me that the people who don't talk a lot have an opportunity. So we want to make sure we leave room for them too in future discussions. And I try to keep an eye on that. So Matt has a few things for us. First is the CMR PC grant funding overview.
You want to do your minutes first, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's item 2. We should have a copy of the minutes.
short and to the point.
All right. Oh, this is it here?
Yeah, you didn't get
March
the emails?
20th.
If I did, I didn't see
It was like the next day, or maybe a few days later.
So
It came from Matt Benoit.
I do have one correction.
Where's that?
Instead of Matthew, it should be Max.
Where?
Oh, sorry, you might have an older version of the minutes. I reprinted it and I updated that.
Oh, are there any other updates there?
No, there was one other spacing issue, but that was it.
Okay.
Yep.
What's the correction?
If it's already been made, then there is no correction.
Correct.
Okay, correct?
Yeah, it's in,
Well, I have my originals that I'm keeping, but
it had Matthew Postma, Board of Selectmen, but it's Maxwell, Board of Selectmen attendees.
oh, okay,
It'd be
all right.
second line, last word, last, if you have the older version.
I'll find it later.
Yeah, number 1, second line, last word. I've got Maxwell,
Oh,
which is
yeah,
correct.
this is from Matt, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
So we're going to approve them? Oh, you're just looking at them now?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I did actually read them, though, a couple times.
These items are up on the board, right? This is summer. Are you looking for a motion?
I just want to make sure everyone's read them, and any other corrections? Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 20th, 2024 as presented.
Okay.
Second that motion?
That was made by Robert, second by Michael. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, those abstaining, the ayes have it. Thanks again, Linda. Now you're up.
All right.
So if I could, what I was hoping to do is, you did give us an introduction last week regarding the CMRPC grant funding, but I thought we could just revisit it, maybe give some updates, and kind of get into the nuts and bolts of what we're getting, how much, and even more important, how it's going to be used.
Sure.
Okay.
So in their handouts, there's a budget and timeline that's part of our contract from CMRPC. Talks about Phase 1, serve as the match for Phase 2 and 3 grants. This is the $30K that we're asking for at town meeting. This would account for project administration and management by CMRPC, community outreach, promotion campaign, trying to get recruiting new members, background research, review of prior plans. They're already doing that currently, which is nice. Phase 1 data collection and analysis. They'll probably pull off of our SWOT analysis, really helpful. They will produce a survey, which will go townwide, and do a community workshop at Charette to gather more input from our residents. Question for you, Mr. Chairman, when we did this in the past, how many volunteers or participants did we get at any workshops?
There was one that was quite big, there might have been 50 people there. We held it in the cafeteria of one of the schools.
Oh, good.
I don't know if you,
It was 50. Oh, yeah,
oh, good guess
yes.
for me. So, but it was a lot of fun, but it took a lot of planning too. Yeah.
Okay. Their committee and staff will meetings, printing data, and miscellaneous. So that's kind of what they budgeted their $30K for to get us started. The next 50 and 65, and talking to Mike Mahan-Vaughn at CMRPC, who's kind of working on our grant applications, he said he's going to submit them both together. He's going to submit an entire grant application for the EEA Planning Assistance Grant and an entire one for the Community One Stop. This way, if we miss one, we get the other, and we don't just miss in pieces. So he's going to submit the entire package for both grants.
And do we have an updated timetable on that?
We don't, not yet, but I think they're due in September, I believe, but I'm not
If
totally
it's
sure.
a one-stop, June 5th.
June
If
5th.
it's a one-stop.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so that one's due June 5th, okay. No, award anticipated in November, my apologies. So yeah, he's already working on that. I've given him a lot of information about our old master plan. I've given him the final report, and he came into my office after I met with you last week, and we went over a few things about housing goals and certain things. He said, we've definitely qualified for this grant, which is nice. So, but yeah, so once we get awarded the grants, hopefully in November, they can then start with Phase 2, which is kind of outlined here in the budget timeline. And then Phase 3 is the administration, the plan development, putting a whole bow on the package, so to speak.
Great.
You don't have the separate costs for that, Phase 3 added up? You just have the 145 at the bottom, right?
Right, that's the 65, the 50, and the 30 all
So
together.
the bottom one is 30.
The bottom Phase 3 is 65.
65.
Top one is 30.
Top one's 30, middle one's 50.
Oh.
The dark blue,
Oh, I see. He added them up at the top of each category. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yes. Any questions for Matt? On any of that?
Would be a big help.
Yeah. I think so. Yep. So, if there are no questions, hazard mitigation plan, you want to chat about that?
Yeah, so we just had a kickoff meeting with our Assistant Fire Chief Kelly Manning, who's kind of spearheading the hazard mitigation plan. And they asked me to keep the master plan committee in the loop for what they're doing. And one of the things we did recently was identify potential hazard areas in town that are affected by, whether it's stormwater, drought, or electric, or any sort of hazard areas natural issues that we have. So I figured I'd ask this group if we know of any areas in town that we can pass along to them that are certain hazard areas. I can name one right now, Rydell Road, and that floods. It floods out an entire business. that's not a good spot. I think we've already flagged that with hazard plan, but we'd be interested to know what you guys know about the town, a little bit more than they do.
Those beavers continue over on, over by the gazebo going up that road, I forget what the name.
Northwest?
Northwest, yeah. It won't be long before we're riding through the, riding actually through the water. I mean, it's like that fire truck coming up over the top.
Oh, Northwest Maine's on their paving plan for this year, too.
On the what plan?
I think it's on their paving plan this year, too.
Is it northwest or northeast?
Northwest is near the gazebo and the common.
What section? Because Northwest is long.
Yeah, it's the front section.
Oh, okay, this is a little further up past where the Boy Scouts meet and stuff on the right-hand side.
Yeah,
It
where
used
the
to
water
always-
tank is.
Yeah, it used to be a little bit of a wetland, but now it's, I mean, all the trees have fallen over because there's so much water there, the trees have all fallen over. It's going to be a lovely mosquito baby this year.
And what kind of hazards they looking for? Just any kind?
Any sort of natural hazards or it's caused by any sort of incoming disaster.
I know one.
Yeah.
If there's ever a fire in the state forest, you just take a look in. All the dead brush and everything in there, you ain't gonna put it out. I know that for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot
They
of dead.
did
dead
some
pines.
logging quite a while ago down going into Thompson. But if you come up by the res on the right-hand side and you just look in, it's as stick can be, and anybody that drives, there's just dead stuff laying everywhere, everywhere.
Whereabouts is this?
The whole
You know where the horses are? The horse corral is? You cross the res, the causeway,
Okay.
everything to the right.
Oh, okay.
Do we know if the state has any type of cleanup program?
I don't know, and that's one
What,
thing
do you
with,
know, they used to have, because I know my dad lived in town,
Yeah.
used to be able to just, they designated acres of land that you could just go in if you burned wood, you had a wood
cut that
stove.
and down.
Cut the dead stuff,
Right, yeah.
only the
that, I
dead
think,
stuff,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
take that. He had tons, cords of wood
Yeah,
out of there.
and I know in other states, they allow you to go in state property, you get a permit, I think
Yeah.
it was $1, and you're allowed to cut anything that's dead and down.
Yeah.
But with everything gated off and the whole deal, you never, I mean, you're not gonna go and carry it out.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, the feasibility of that is nil, and the dead stuff is just everywhere.
I presume that the fire department has keys to all those gates that they can get in there, I would think. Because there are a lot of roads up there that was built during the Depression.
Streeter.
Yeah, all the way up through, there's a lot of things that you could get a vehicle through to fight a fire.
So, I mean, that's one of the things I've seen.
I've noticed a lot of dead pines. I don't know if there was a blight.
There
or
was something, I
gypsy
have them
moth.
in my
White
backyard.
pine?
I'm not sure what pine, whether it's a blue spruce, was a blight. But you go on some of those paths, there's a lot of long dead trees. I've been cutting them down in lieu of them falling down. But, yeah, a lot of dead wood.
Oaks from the gypsy moths, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Along 16,
Yeah.
to Webster.
Even up by your places, the woods are just full of dead,
Yep, dead oaks.
dead everywhere. Everything's dead.
Yeah, I think the ash are getting some type of a disease, too.
Ash tree borer.
Yeah.
It'll kill 'em.
It's coming out of the Midwest,
Really.
spreading east. So, I guess dead trees on the side of the road would be a hazard.
Yeah. They're especially a hazard, yeah.
Even just drive out 16, heading to Webster, and I know they did some thinning, but not even close. If you even take a look 2 feet off the road, it's everywhere.
Well, that's the thing, a lot of those, they're ready to fall onto the road and kill people in their cars.
So even the live ones are leaning over the road to the point where you don't know if there's ants in the middle
Right.
until it comes down.
Right.
It's still live, but it should come down. It should not be overhanging the road.
Now, I know the electric company sometimes will come out and trim, but is there any type of town program we're aware of? They sort of keep an eye on that?
Tree warden gets a certain amount of funding every year.
50
Yeah.
grand?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's depleted that in 2
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does ask for
Yeah.
more.
It costs, what, $5,000 or $10,000 to take down one tree?
Thanks.
Because they're going to get police detail and all those things.
So in terms of criteria, we talk about natural disasters,
Yep.
not man-made?
No.
No. That's another program.
So it's only, so the fire department is only looking for natural.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Hazard.
existing hazards that we have now, out there now. Or, you know, if there are some sort of like major oil spills or anything like that that anyone knows about, we'd love to hear about.
Yeah.
Besides the one that happened in this building, but, you know.
About like critical dams. I mean, we have a lot of ponds. Used to be mills on every pond in town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of small ponds, like Meeks Pond,
yeah.
you know?
They did ask me for the GIS data on all the dams in town, which I do have. So I am providing that, and they have condition reports on those.
So you don't see any hazards with the dams?
Some of them, I think some of them were rated poorly, but they're on private property.
Yeah.
and there's not much we can
Haywood
do.
Landing's one of them.
Right.
With all the rain, have we had any issues with the Mumford River overflowing its banks anywhere, causing, I haven't heard of anything.
Not that I
Yeah.
know of.
The only thing as far as hazards, if talking about the river, is the bridges that cross so narrow, having incidents and accidents. Pedestrians walking, things of that nature. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're built to stay up forever out of stone, but they were made when horses and buggies used to be around, not 18-wheelers and the automobiles of today.
You know, I mean, some of them aren't even quite 2 cars wide.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. The buggy and the horse would get by, no problem, but,
The Mechanic Street Bridge, that's tricky.
yeah,
Yeah. But you know, I notice most people, you stop and you wait,
Yeah.
you know.
right,
You shouldn't be
People,
doing
you see a
40
car
there
coming,
anyway.
you stop,
The
the other
local
goes, you
people.
go.
right.
Yeah, the locals know the protocol. You can
Right.
always tell when someone's from out of town.
Right,
Just like the causeway, I mean, normally you take a peek and see if everybody's on it.
right.
If so, you wait, you let them go.
Now, that's a hazard. There's no rails there.
That one is a real.
You gotta know how to swim.
So in terms of roads, bridges, sidewalks, that should come under that category, narrow bridges. If we can add that.
Narrow bridges and causeway.
That might be something we add to our SWOT analysis,
Yep.
you know, which is a good segue.
Yeah.
Anything else we'd like to add? We can always revisit it if something comes up
Yep, and
between meetings.
I'm going to keep you informed as the progress of the hazard mitigation plan continues.
Did you have anything else on that, Matt?
Nope.
Okay. So we move on to SWAT?
Sure. So, just to, you know, build off of our last conversation, just curious if we wanted to add anything more to this, since we had an opportunity to think about it. One thing you just talked about was narrow bridges.
And causeway that is not a bridge.
Causeway.
Yeah, true.
Safety, railings.
Should we add natural disasters under there, just sort of as a category?
I don't suppose.
You know, on them bridges, only 2 of them are rated for truck traffic. The third is not. So
Which
you
one
only
is that?
have, the South Street and A Street Bridge, I think it is, allowed for truck.
How about that new
The
Cedar
other one is
Street?
not.
The new Cedar Street Bridge?
No, I'm talking about right here in town.
Oh,
The three bridges that cross the road, only 2 of them are rated for trucks.
North and, North Street is okay.
And is it A?
Was it Mechanic Street, the one that's got the jig
It could,
over by
yeah.
the bank?
The Mechanic is.
No, the one by the
12-ton
bank
limit.
is not. That
That's
is
a
not rated for
12-ton
truck.
limit.
That has a weight restriction.
Okay. Oh, so it's the one that goes up by the goodness store?
Yes.
Okay, that one's okay.
Cook Street.
That one.
Cook Street,
Yeah.
that's the name of the thing.
Those are the only 2 rated for a truck to
Okay.
cross the river.
We did speak a bit about the downtown, and there was one area, I think I was asking the question about, what do you have to do to create a vibrant downtown? You know, one that attracts people. And we sort of went around it. We have downtown building uses. Like there was something else.
I think it starts with infrastructure. It's kind of something we did in Auburn. Auburn does not have a downtown at all. So what they did is they improved the infrastructure in Auburn Street, and they put in the ornamental lighting and added the bike lanes and all those things. And that brought some businesses in. They really like those sorts of, that curb appeal.
Okay.
But, you
I
know,
mean, there are some models out there. I think Putnam, if you've been down there, they've come a long way. There used to be, 20 years ago, there wasn't much there.
But they have a whole, Putnam has a whole section of eateries,
Yeah.
which
yeah,
draws a
right.
lot of
They've
people
built it.
by the railroad station.
Started with a cafe, and they just
Yeah.
built on that. So now it's a destination,
There's going to be a dozen eateries in that complex.
yeah.
and it just built.
Of course,
Because people come, because people are coming, you know?
the difference that we have here is, quite frankly, we don't have, do we have any empty places downtown?
I don't think so.
Not
I
that
don't
I'm
think we
aware
do.
of.
You know, a lot of these towns, they'll put, you know, I remember when we had it before, they said, you know, just get somebody in, even if they're not hardly paying any rent, to bring other people in. Well, the thing is that ours are all, we don't have any empty spaces.
What kind of businesses bring in heavy foot traffic? I'm sort of begging the question.
Restaurants, I'm sure.
Restaurants, cafes,
Yeah.
any other thoughts there?
Well, I'm thinking, you bring up Putnam, what does Putnam have? Right across the street's a huge walking area along the river.
Yes.
What did Webster just do? A long walking area along the river. We have a river. Do we have a walking area? No.
It's,
We'd have to get,
you wouldn't know it was there.
we'd have to get Concom involved, but you could develop a huge
Just up Depot
sidewalk.
Street. You go to the end of Depot Street, and they've got trailhead parking there now for the
Oh.
SNET.
Call that
And
the,
that's just, how long does it take you to get from, to walk from downtown, or even park at the high school, this building? Parking lot and walk up to Depot Street, or, so it's not that far from downtown.
Would be kind of nice
But it's
to have
long
something
enough to
downtown.
prevent you from visiting both.
But, and there's no sign. Nobody knows it's there. They figure, oh, we got to drive all the way down to Webster, halfway to Webster before we can get to the state forest or the SNET, or,
Yeah.
but it's right there, and it's a huge parking area.
Huh.
so wayfinding signage would help, right?
Yes.
There you go. It's wayfinding. I wrote Mumford Riverwalk here, so it's one of those things.
You know, as far as like, you know, the downtown, the river down behind the Goodness Store and all of that, I mean, there would be an area that you could park. I guess it was a blacksmith shop there or something at one
Yes.
time. Uh,
Yes.
But conservation won't allow Jackman to even develop a parking area there.
What's that street that is,
I don't know the street, I know which street you mean, the one that goes
Yeah.
parallel to Main Street. I don't know the name of it.
remember,
But-
A?
Could be A Street, might go up.
And Cemetery Street is off of it.
Yeah, cemetery. Could be A Street. You might be right, it is A Street, I think.
Did we talk about off-street parking?
I thought I brought it up before.
That's not up
Maybe
here.
we need to get
Parking for
conservation.
trail access on the weaknesses.
Well,
Downtown
it's the
off-street
river,
parking?
it's got to
Is that-
be 100
That's
feet
for
away.
trail access, but downtown,
Downtown parking is limited.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Well, and I'm gonna say, good or bad, I mean, the only thing that I've noticed, like with downtown Douglas, it's 1,000 feet long, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you go right into houses.
Yeah.
Or you take a split near a high school. You don't have, like, down there Putnam and all them areas, you have a vast area that you're working with.
Right.
There is no vast area in downtown Douglas.
'Cause
It just isn't there. I mean, you can go, I understand, like you said about Auburn, you know, but you have area to work with.
Right.
The Douglas, you have 1,000 feet of road, and that's all you have on either side of it.
So Putnam was a big city at one time, a fairly good-sized city. I mean, it had a 4-story store there,
Yeah.
department store and everything.
Yeah.
So it was a big city at one time.
Yeah.
Douglas never was.
No.
We're as big as-
And I totally understand on what do you do to develop it.
Yeah.
Well, you need an area to develop before you worry about how you're gonna do it. And right now, like, a lot of the roads are all historic, so you're not gonna tear the houses down,
Right.
heading outside of town. And then going the other way, the road splits 3 different ways.
Right.
Either go to the high school, you go to the Bosma's Farm, or you cross back over the river. So what do you do in that area? And there's houses there now. You're not gonna take them by eminent domain.
No.
To do what? So
Could we
you can
encourage,
find that, unless you want to find a whole nother area to call main downtown Douglas. No matter what you try to do, you still have the same 1,000 feet.
What is the status of the breakfast place? What is the deal with that?
Picket fence.
Picket fence,
Picket
right.
fence.
What is it? I've never seen them open. Are they open?
They're open in the
Yeah,
morning. for
Wednesday
breakfast and
through
stuff.
Sunday, I believe.
Yeah.
They close Monday, Tuesday.
Okay, but they've been they were down for a while, but they're
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
open?
They're back open.
Okay.
But they're not open at night.
No.
you know.
Just breakfast.
It's a breakfast, yeah.
It's breakfast only. They eliminated lunch.
I wasn't sure if that building was operational. I haven't seen it open yet.
But you know,
Okay.
one of the things too is, I don't know if there's any type of grants to just make downtown look nicer. Buildings, stuff like that. I don't know if there's anything that could.
New
could do
sidewalks,
that.
lighting.
Yeah, you could
the
do
old
a
lighting.
facade improvement
Facade
program.
improvement, something
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
Make everything look kind of pretty. That would be nice.
Yeah, there's opportunities out there for those. That's kind of a town initiative where all the local businesses kind of contribute to a fund annually, and that fund is worked towards the facade improvements, but it's kind of like a levy, but,
I think the facades look fine. It's not like they're derelict and falling down. I mean, all the buildings are painted, they're maintained.
Well, I think what it is you try to get some consistency between them, that's all. I mean, they did a great job.
But that's what makes us unique.
Well, you got
We're all
one there too, I guess you're right.
I want to ask you something, Michael, you might know this. How far out does the commercial zone extend in town? You talked about that 1,000 feet. You guys know how far out that goes, and does it go right into VR?
Well, I'm not sure off the bat. I'm just going off of what is existing now, as far as facilities and buildings.
Well, the reason I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and that's why I just say it, you know, and as far as I know, no buildings have ever gone, I mean, these houses have been here forever, so it's never gone past, like Unibank, I mean, ever.
Would it be helpful to look into expanding commercial uses of what are now currently residents, using the same houses, same buildings? You know, back in the 90s, it was interesting, you have Route 16 running through town, and people who live on there, and it was very residential. It's mostly residential today. It's really a residential road. So these people had all this traffic going by, but VR was the second most restrictive zone for business. So one of the things they did with the previous master plan is we expanded it from almost nothing to about 15 uses now. You can have retail, restaurants and stuff. I don't know that much of that has been done.
Right.
But we may need to revisit that to see what we can do to enhance what people can do in those properties along 16.
Yeah, totally agree, and I think I was brought up the other meeting on relooking at the zonings, because a lot of that, they're split lots, so half the lot might be, you're able to do that, the other half says you can't.
Right.
And that's created issues. I know we had one person buy a house, wanted to get a loan, but I think 50 feet of the lot was in downtown or commercial, because of the way the maps were made back in the day.
Right.
And it had to go before town meeting to get it changed, and people shouldn't have to do that, you know? And true to what you say, look at it, but if the maps and the lots are split in half, we'll have to look at changing them, you know, a map review.
So can we note that, Matt, if you haven't already, Route 16?
I wrote enhance the VR uses. Is
Great.
that kind of what you meant?
Okay, yep.
Okay.
You know, I'd make a suggestion that perhaps we're meeting in the wrong room. We should be meeting in the room that has all the maps.
Does it still have maps? I've
Yeah,
been
they're
in
still
that
up there.
room.
There's still maps in that room.
Those have been in there for 30 years, right?
Yeah, but that's the room we should be meeting in, and we got
Yeah.
questions right now. We could go look right at that map, and we would know it.
Are you recommending a change of venue, Carol?
I am.
Okay.
I mean, how many of us are here? We don't need this big room.
But now,
And
looking
there's
at this,
still plenty of room for audience, and
Yeah.
they can video us over there. I don't know if anybody else agrees with that.
Entire Main
but-
Street's all village business.
We just don't have the ability to do Zoom in that room.
Oh,
And Katie Grace is now at the meeting. She's here.
Oh, yeah.
So-
Hey, Katie. Hey, Katie.
Hey, sorry I joined late. Like I said, trying to move around bedtime and things like that, so.
Happy to have you.
To your point, there's your zoning map right there. The entire Main Street is village business, surrounded by, let's say, 100 feet each way, and then village residential.
So they go right up against each other,
The Main Street is basically village business.
okay?
So the VR is the yellow?
VR is yellow, yes. VB is the green,
Nope.
which touches the street.
Do we allow residential in the VB? Because, I mean, you get stuff like up above Gregory's and stuff, places. Part of it is bringing people into living downtown.
Yes, there is,
We got those up.
Like, you
because
can't,
we just allowed those apartments above, that one apartment, right across the street from the
Right
library.
across from picket fence, the people
Right.
live up there.
Yeah.
right,
So
because
there
that was
is.
pre-existing. Yeah, people have been living there, I can remember looking at that 50 years ago, when it was for sale, and there were
Yeah.
people living there, so
Yeah.
that was pre-existing. but-
Next to the Methodist Church.
Yeah, yeah.
So we could flip it, we're looking to expand VR for business, but maybe we can look at
We'll just
central
see
business
whether or not
regarding,
Residential. is
residential,
allowed in
yeah.
it as well.
you know, I
Well, and
think,
of course, I think the ideal is always to have mixed use, right? You want to get
Yeah.
as much use out of the space as you can, and certainly having mixed residential and business is always a good idea in terms of, you know, smart planning and things like that.
It's certainly the idea now. It was the idea 100 years ago until then planners came in and decided, oh, that's not a good idea.
Right, that-
Now
that-
we're going back to what people did before there was zoning.
and that was the norm. You have residents up
Right.
top,
Right.
and we talk about the vibrancy of downtown.
Yeah.
If people are living there,
Right.
you're going to see more people downtown. Yeah. I don't know why they changed that. And what they got away from is,
Well,
they zoned it so you no longer could use it for
Right.
residential use.
Well, you know, these people that went to college and came up with smart ideas. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, mixed use downtown. That's definitely worth.
Now, something, and it might pertain to this or might not. So in the VR zoning, I guess the last time the master plan or the zoning got changed around, people that already had lots and things like weren't grandfathered. So they have to go through ZBA a lot of times to do stuff. Should that be looked at where pre-existing lots and things of that nature? You know? Because if you're looking at changing something, you don't want to punish the people that have already been there.
I don't think we can modify the grandfathering rights of Chapter 40A. I don't think we can do that, but, you know, if they have any use and the zoning changes, they're grandfathered, absolutely.
Right.
But the second they try to change that, they
Right.
lose it.
All right, okay.
Right.
But then if somebody comes in with a pre-existing lot that's smaller than what's now required, they have to go to the ZBA and everything
Right.
before they can do it, and they
Right.
shouldn't have to.
Right, and the lots are, yeah,
Right.
that's
And
right.
But yet, that's what I meant, like, but before that was a legal lot.
Right. It's still a legal lot, because when the legislature allowed them to bring in zoning, they had protection for these lots. So it's still a legal lot.
It's still a legal lot, but it's now non-conforming.
But it's
Right.
still a legal lot, and they have to allow them to use it, so why do they have to go to the ZBA?
Right.
That's what.
That's
Because
the
that's the
question.
law.
No, it doesn't have to be the law.
That-
It's not
well,
the state law.
I'm not saying
It's not
that
state law.
it does have to be.
It's not state
It's
law.
that it was done at town meeting. So we
Right,
have to
so-
go back to town meeting.
Maybe you-
Well, and that's a discussion, like, as you say, it's a discussion I think that should be brought up. Maybe nothing changes, but at least brought up and discussed and
Right,
hammered
right.
out a little bit. Because, I mean, this is all pre-me being here, as you, like, you know.
Right.
What is on that aspect.
Right.
And you're talking about housing and cost and stuff. Well, now you just added an extra burden
Oh, yeah.
by doing that.
Every time you have to
So,
bring an
I know there
engineer
needs to be a
in,
check and balance, but there again, everything you do, every action, there's a reaction.
Right.
You want to do this, you want to do that, there's cost here, cost here, cost here. Well, now, why should we bother to do anything?
So one thing that our zoning board of appeals does not do is section 6 findings under nonconformance of 40A. And that's where you can submit your nonconforming application, whether it's your lot or your use, your structure, and they can determine whether it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood and make a finding on it instead of giving out a variance or a special permit. It's something that they can do. They just don't do it. I don't know why. but it's something that they did a lot in Natick all the time.
Yeah.
No. And if you have a lot and it's conforming with the rest of the lots and you haven't built out on it, like Carol's saying, I think that'd be grounds for the ZBA to make a finding on that, say that that use would be not less detrimental to what's around it.
Correct.
But that's something the ZBA should probably consider doing.
Yeah.
And that's where information is, how, you know, people don't know about it, it's not gonna get done. You know what I mean? And that's where maybe in here or maybe not here, stuff like that, information gets out there, so
Right.
people know.
So that would be revisiting the zoning bylaws. The planning board doing that? Because that was done 10 years ago. Remember when you recodified
Yeah,
the zoning bylaws?
Yes, yeah.
10, 15 years ago?
Mark Bobrowski did it for us, yeah.
Yeah,
I know a few things have been looked at here and there,
yeah.
you know.
It takes a long time.
Yeah, it
You
does.
know what, that might be some of the stuff when you say, you know, get input from townspeople. There might be people who have ideas on this, stuff that we never even thought of,
So
you know?
true.
It's often amazing is what some people have ideas on, you know?
Oh, yeah, and in the process, I
Right.
think we're going to be doing that very thing. We're going to have multiple
Right.
programs. We can invite people in, people who may never have been that involved in town government or what
Right.
have you. This is their opportunity to step up.
And like stated earlier, people know this stuff more than I do, or somebody else. The knowledge is important.
And the interesting to remember is, I think some people see zoning or the laws as a burden, as an obstacle. But zoning is supposed to be whatever we want it to be. You can amend it. It's supposed to be the wants, needs, and desires, and we brought this up at a meeting, of the community. That's why the community can change it. So that's why these discussions are really important. It's what we want it to be.
Right, what the town wants to be.
That's right.
Not we right here, but, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
This is where it begins,
Residents in the
and
town.
and the community and the town.
But we're the one that's kind of going to be pushing it, so it'd be nice if we get their ideas, see if somebody's got some brilliant ideas. I bet there are some brilliant ideas out there.
I'm sure.
So, one thing that Douglas could consider, this is very ambitious, is adopting form-based code. Form-based code is, I guess, if zoning bylaws explain what you can't do, form-based code explains what you can do. And it gives you, like, even architectural renderings to the structures you can build, et cetera. It's very involved. They have to do a complete survey of all the zones that are applied and do setbacks based on what's existing. But it's something to explore. It'd be very involved. It would replace our zoning bylaws effectively, be a major change. And it's usually done in cities, not necessarily towns, but something we could consider for our downtown. It might help. But I don't know if you're interested in some reading, but look up some form-based code and see what you think of that.
With that form-based code, is it like, you know, suggestion? Or is it, this is what you're going to have to build, if you want to build, it has to look like this?
In some cases, it can be exactly that.
Yeah.
It could be, you have to build it like this model, or you'll have options for models of housing and things like that.
And that's
But
going to go over really.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's
And
just
it'll
one.
change the minute we adopt it.
That's just
It'll
one
change.
component of
Yeah,
it, but
yeah.
form-based code takes on a lot of different aspects. It's not just that,
Yeah.
but that's one piece of it.
The other, we're thinking more about the present day, but the other thing we need to think about is the future.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
About our town 20 years from now. In fact, that's a big program now out there in cities and towns and countries. They call it Planning the Future. And they'll even have a director of future planning. And what they do is, it's interesting, they have a study, they try to study ancient, especially with architecture, ancient architecture, current architecture, and future architecture in planning, building their communities. I don't know if you've heard of that,
Haven't.
yeah.
Director of Future Planning.
You want to be the director of future planning?
I do not.
But that's where the rubber hits the road, what do we want to see 20 years from now? And boy, it goes by, because it seems like we just did this.
Right?
And you can, leave your thumbprint on the town if you do this. You can really push things forward. We did make some changes, and it happened. I think it's a great opportunity.
Because the thing is, you can't make someone come into your town and make someone come in and do this stuff. The only thing that you can do is you make it available that they can and make it something that they might want to do because, you know, it's in their interest and stuff like that. But to try to, you can stop, you can put restrictions on what people can do, but to tell somebody they have to come in and do it, you can't. So you have to like encourage them. If
I
you have
think
something that you want, you kind of encourage it.
the biggest thing that was brought up earlier is infrastructure. That's the key. You don't have the electrical power, you don't have the roads, you don't have anything like that. In the industrial zones, if you don't have water, you don't have sewer, nobody's gonna come.
Well, we do now, thank you, Mr. Manerick.
We're just going through that right now to support this building.
Correct.
The infrastructure on North Street in Gilboa, that was over 100 years old.
Correct.
We were pulling out pipes that you couldn't put a flashlight through. And you need 12-inch mains clear to supply 1,900 gallons per minute for firefighting for these buildings. And Gilboa was on the Water Sewer Commissioner's list since 2012. We finally got that done last year.
And that's the big key. You can ask and look all you want until you have infrastructure. It's almost like, what's that baseball? You build it,
Build
they'll
it, they'll
come.
come. Davis
If you
Street
don't
is another
build it,
example.
ain't
We have
nobody ever gonna come.
200 acres of industrial zone land on Davis Street, going down towards the Expo. No water, no sewer, no gas.
Nobody's ever gonna go.
Any thoughts or any plans in the offing for that?
We have a site readiness grant right now designing a water sewer system to get to at least to, escape my name, what's the, Thomas Circle just built that, up to that point.
Yeah.
And that will help. But again, you're looking at over $1 million to put in just a water line, $1 million to put in a sewer line,
Gee, that's not very far. It's like halfway to Uxbridge, right? Thomas Circle.
not even halfway.
Yeah, where Granutech was, just past.
Right, just past Granutech. But that's the entrance to those 200 acres.
So do
Thomas
we-
Circle's off South Street. I think you're thinking of something else.
So do we need some sort of a business infrastructure master plan? I mean, it could be very much part of this, but you want to have that overall master plan today, tomorrow, and for the future, so that you can go out and get grants and money. You've made great strides, Bob. You've probably done more in the last handful of years than
Yeah.
people have done in
I've
30.
used your master plan
Legacy
20 years ago
That's what it's called.
for the past 4 years.
Great.
Because you identified those two areas that are being developed right now.
I believe you meant Legacy Circle, right?
Legacy Circle.
Yes.
Legacy Circle.
Yeah, Thomas McIntyre. There you go. That's where you got it.
Past Granutech.
So how do we build on that? I mean, we mentioned it, we brought 25 years ago. So now, how do we go forward? How do we want to look at this in terms of growing that even more? You know?
Well, we have to identify Davis Street. I mean, there's a lot of property down there that can be developed. Challenging, but in the old days, ledge was kind of put off development.
Unbuildable.
Now it's a commodity.
They crush it.
People look for ledge.
This is no more gravel left.
Interesting.
Sure, I'm making it.
I never thought I'd hear that,
Yeah, huh?
of looking for ledge.
McIntyre right now is taking down a huge granite hill. And if it's valuable rock, like for concrete, prices through the roof.
What's amazing is the value of these old gravel pits. I can remember when, they were carrying, we're gonna stop these gravel removal of the land, so it's gonna be worth a dime, the town's gonna take it for back taxes, we'll never be able to sell it. Well,
Yeah.
it's the most expensive land there is now, is
Go
old gravel pits.
Yeah, these two gravel pits will probably support $600 billion in development when it's all said and done. Just two of them. It's huge. The town's value is $1 billion, so put that into perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
60% increase.
Jeez. Now, what about the property along 16 heading to Webster? I know some of that got turned back over to state forest, or is it still zoned?
A lot of it is state forest, but there was the one property that,
On the Webster
On
line.
the Webster
Was
line? we
commercial,
had-
9
wasn't it
acres.
commercial?
We already had like a site plan review on that.
yep, they,
But there was some debate, and I don't know whether that would come out of here or not, where there's a stoppage because we won't allow them to put another building behind their building
because there's an old right-of-way there.
because there's an old right-of-way.
And I think there's another company looking at coming in shortly. We've had meetings with those.
Yeah,
And that's where the language and stuff from either years ago, or whatever, I mean, you stop an industry from coming in over a dirt two-track road that is just barely on a map.
yeah, and it's owned by a county that doesn't exist
Doesn't
anymore.
exist.
Right, so I mean, but you gotta stop the project.
Yeah, you have to maintain the right to pass and repass.
Correct.
Which is,
I mean, and those things that is a weakness or not, I don't know, or,
old easements. Now, we have an abandoned pipeline easement, right?
it's in my backyard.
Yeah. And that's no longer active at all, right?
Nope.
Is it empty? Is it
But
filled?
what's,
Like,
nobody really knows, I
Yeah.
don't even know.
Yeah.
When you say abandoned, do they still
That's
own it though?
The old Exxon Mobil,
ExxonMobil still owns it?
no. They sold it, that's why the
But
pump
what,
station,
who did they sell it to?
I forget the name, they sold the pump station to the town.
Well, I
the
know that,
town.
but the pipeline, they probably never give up these right-of-ways.
They're only good for so long. I don't know when this one expired, I thought it was coming up real
Really? I
soon.
didn't know that they only good for
It's
so long.
usually it's 100 years.
Because I know like the electric company, they never give up right-of-ways that they have.
It's usually on somebody's deed as it passes through every property.
Right.
I never, I know the pipeline came to our property when we owned the gravel pit, and I don't remember anything being on the deed.
No.
But they- as far as I can tell, they had it forever.
But that's an active line.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it could be on, well, the way they're trying to get rid of gas might be inactive next week.
That ain't gonna happen.
And have just electric, you know?
Well, I do know some of the old Exxon Mobil, they were made to pull the old lines out in other communities. I know it happened in Sutton,
Yeah.
down around Manchog, they were made to pull out the pipe. And that's something where this goes through the community, is that something that should be thought of too? If they're leaving on abandoned gas lines, do you just leave them in the ground, or do you pull them out?
That could be a threat, abandoned,
Yeah,
Yes.
that should be,
do we want to call it a gas line or a,
They pump gasoline through the
they
line.
pumped everything through there.
They can put
Diesel
everything
fuel,
through those
gas, heating oil,
Yeah.
yeah.
you name it, it came through that pipeline. And I know when we took it over, they sold it to us on Main Street. We have a moratorium for digging. We cannot dig in that area. It was 10 years when we took over. Do you know what date we took it?
Probably about 5 years ago now, I'd say.
Yeah.
So that 10 years is going away, yeah.
All right, that's a good addition. Anything else we'd like to add to the list here? Thoughts, considerations? This discussion is great, you know, because once we have the funding and the planners come, we'll have lots of work for them to do.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it's a great start. It really is.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They were real excited to hear that we've already established our committee and we've already met. So that was a great start for us. Yep.
Well, you know, one of the things I would like to see, I mean, because housing is part of it too, you know, would be ADUs,
Oh,
accessory
yeah.
dwelling units allowed by right. The state is pushing for that. They're pushing real hard for the ADUs. If we could get it into our zoning, it would help us when we're looking for grants and stuff.
Sneak
Because
that
that's one
in
of the
here.
things they look for. Another interesting thing, which I was really surprised, was Matt came before the Finance Committee the other night, and you know, for the last 50 years, people go, oh, we don't want any more houses in town, because they're going to bring kids, and we get too many kids in the schools and everything. Well, for one thing, we're down 32% on us, over 500 kids. But the other thing is, what Matt showed a whole thing from all the different towns. The towns that had the most new housing had the slowest amount of growth in their tax increases.
Wow.
Because you know what? People building houses, but they're not having kids.
Right.
So what do they attribute the drop in student population to?
People aren't having kids.
That'll
Aging
do it.
population, too.
I'm sorry?
Aging populations.
An aging population, and the reason it's aging is because the younger people are not having children.
Interesting.
You see a lot of, they'd rather have a couple of dogs than some kids.
I remember 10 years ago, they did a study
Yeah.
when they were building the high school, the newest school, and they said in 10 years from now, which is now, that we will have no room.
Yeah, right.
And yet
remember
we're
that.
at 30.
Remember that comment?
So that's how good future,
So
the crystal ball
looking
is.
into the future, they blew it.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't even close.
But it's not just Douglas.
Yeah.
It's not just Douglas. Even towns like Northbridge, that has a lot of, and I'm not going to call it low-income housing, but a lot of affordable housing for families, okay? Because they got all that mill housing that they've had forever. Even they experience a decrease. It's like people just are not having kids anymore.
It's interesting.
I got one thing I'll throw out there. We build these buildings, I know we're getting ready, maybe new highway bond,
Yeah.
schools, but there's never, ever talk about the maintenance of them buildings.
Oh, I agree.
Cost to keep them up. It's always like a fire drill. It needs a roof before the roof is leaking water, or the windows are ready to fall in, we need to fix windows. In most households, you plan and you budget that stuff far ahead of time.
Right.
Why do we always have to have it at the 11th hour? It's a big rush. Then all the residents in town, I don't say get pissed, because now you're blowing all this money, and if you would have fixed it 3 years ago, would have been a tenth of the price.
That is actually something the Board of Selectmen has been looking into, of hiring like a building commissioner, or not a commissioner, but like a building maintenance person.
There we go, okay,
who
well,
will
time.
actually go around and ensure that all the buildings are, still have roofs.
Current.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Like
that-
Adam used to just do the municipal side,
Yeah.
not the school
Right.
side.
Right.
They want somebody to do
Right,
both,
do
right?
everything.
Yeah, well, they were having Adam do it for a while, but it's too much for him to do, being the new superintendent.
Superintendent,
right.
correct.
So now they're looking, I think Matt, the town administrator, is looking into expanding a position to keep maintenance on buildings and make sure that each building actually is getting maintained.
Get maintained.
Right.
Yeah, like you don't wait for the caulking, like I said, and the windows to fall, and if it takes a tube of caulking to fix it, you fix it.
You know, to your thing, in Northbridge, okay, there's a private school, the Whitensville Christian
Yeah,
School,
I know
okay?
what you mean.
Then there was another school called the Barmer School. Both of them were built at the same time. The Barmer School, they ended up tearing down and putting a new one because it was all falling apart. The Whitensville Christian School is still perfect because they maintained
They
it.
maintain it.
Yep.
Put a lot of work into that school.
The Whitensville Christian?
And I went through K through 12. I was there for 13 years.
But they
And they
maintained.
also expanded multiple times
Exactly.
while I was there and then graduated.
Yep.
But I mean, that comes into play because we all know things are expensive. And we all know it's hard to make a dollar. And the more taxes you add to residents, it's not good.
Right.
And preventive maintenance,
Yeah.
I don't care if you have a vehicle, a fire truck, or a building, you need to try to keep it up. And these buildings should last a long, long time. But, like I said, it's always a fire drill at town meeting. You know, the world's coming to an end because nobody wants to maintain buildings. And I think it's totally wrong, and that's, at this present time, it's a weakness that needs to be really looked at.
Is it because it's the poor child regarding budgeting? Is it because it's the poor child regarding budgeting?
Yeah, yeah.
They're just not
But they
budgeting
are looking into it,
staff and resources?
hoping that they can find someone. They might find someone, too, who can do minor things as well, not have to, bring people in to do minor things.
We just went through this with the highway department within the past 2 years, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've identified the roads that really need upkeep, the ones that are in real bad shape, and they've identified in like a 20-year plan, it's going to be over $1 million a year just to keep up with the roads
We did
without
a-
getting ahead of the curve.
Did a road rating system. Nice.
Correct. So maybe we need to do a buildings type of system, a rating system.
Yes.
But our roads in town are deplorable.
Well,
I think the
not
town
much
depends-
worse than the other towns.
No.
So,
I think the
I don't
town
want to
de-
pick on our highway department. They do it the best
Oh,
they can with what they have.
They're staying with, ahead of it
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
But it's a funding issue.
Yeah.
Years ago, we were
Right.
considered one of the best in the valley.
Yeah.
I mean,
They did a great
Chapter
job.
90, every year we double it at a town meeting. We give highway double what they get from Chapter 90. I think they do a great job with what they have to work with.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we listed their maintenance as a strength.
I think we get a lot of bang for the buck from most of our, if not all our departments in town.
Oh,
We really
yeah.
do.
I think we do too.
Interesting. Any other thoughts, considerations? Keep the list going? Do you have any thoughts and considerations?
I do not. No, this is really good. Appreciate this very much.
We'll have to pick up why young people aren't having kids next time.
Because
Video games.
they're on the phone.
I made my contribution.
I did mine 60 years ago.
Yeah, I'm done.
So what happened? Well, the boomer generation, we had big families, bigger families, you know?
That's-
I don't
Right,
know.
but you already have them, and the boomer generation's living longer than their predecessors.
It's true too.
So when you talk about aging population, they're continuing to live without adding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thought.
Just take a trip to the grocery store. One reason is you don't want to have kids.
Yeah. I know. Or take a look at what it is to send a kid to college today. Oy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
Well, that's the other thing that I was going to tie into Whitesville Christian School, right? Because Whitesville Christian School isn't tax funded, it's privately funded.
Right.
And while they haven't greatly increased the number of kids per class, they can maintain the same number of kids every year because they always have more applicants than they admit. And all their funding sources is there's always plenty of people who are willing to pay that tuition.
Yeah.
But it's close to the same, like if you look at tuition for Christian school, it's similar to a lot of colleges. So the maintenance that they're doing on that building is similar to the maintenance programs you'd see on a college campus.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so anything else for the SWAT list? Going once, going twice? All right, so now we'll open it up. If anybody has any thoughts or considerations of anything we haven't talked about you'd like to discuss or bring to the table? Something appealing, something appalling, something for everyone? Yeah? That's what we used to say about town meeting.
Yeah.
Something appealing, something appalling, something for everyone. We'll find out, right?
Got a list.
I think it's a great list. We can just keep adding to it. We're going to have a lot of work for these people, I think.
I think so.
I'd like to know how this list compares with other towns. That's a lengthy list.
Yeah.
CMRPC is coming down expecting 5 items in each category.
Yeah, they're going to be in for a
They'll be
swell
sh-
surprise,
yeah, They're
Bob.
going to be shocked.
Yeah. All right, so if there's nothing further?
No.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Wait a minute.
Oh,
I have,
sorry.
I think we need to make a calendar for when we're going to meet. People know month to month.
Thank you, that's a good question. We were talking about possibly keeping it the third Wednesday,
Yes.
and if that's amenable to the committee, we talked about twice a month. We'll just do once a month, but I agree, I think it has to be the same time, so that we don't always have to worry about, when it is, and if we can make it.
Yeah, so the first Wednesday, ZBA has their meetings. They meet once a month.
Okay.
So we'll be looking at the third Wednesday of every month. It's off the planning board schedule.
All right, second and fourth is planning board,
Yep.
so third is available, there's
Right.
rooms available.
Right.
Okay, so once a month, third Wednesday of the month? That works for everybody? By acclamation?
So it's the third Wednesday of the month?
Yep.
Okay. And at 7 PM?
Yes.
Okay.
That
I'll
works.
produce a hearing schedule for us
Okay.
to approve and adopt at our next meeting.
Is there anything else? Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
I'll second that.
Motion by Michael, seconded by Bob. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining?
8 o'clock on the dot.
Thank you.